I feel like I should just say like this the whole stream. Look at my bald head. Look at it. I demand you look at my bald head. There we go. I want this leg right about that level and right about there. Because then I can talk to you guys while I'm moving around, and it's going to sound weird because I'm going to be moving away from the microphone and closer to the microphone. But I think that works really well. I mean, heck, with this setup, I could mount it over there and have the microphone come up like right here. That would also work. It is so warm. What is the weather right now? There's a very long cat hair in my mouth. Okay, it's not as bad as it was yesterday. It's only 79 degrees today. Yesterday it was 90. So we've actually gone down 10 degrees today. That is so much better than it was yesterday. I was dying. Like we went to the farmers market yesterday and then went to D&D. 3 out of 5 of us at the table were super sweaty and just exhausted because we went to the farmers market and it was 90 degrees. I had this fan with me. I had, where'd I put the little one? I had this fan for a friend of mine, and then I had my cat fan that's usually sitting on this desk. Granted, I love that fan to death, but it does not work as well like in this type of heat. Hence why I have a battery like operated one right now. Command pops up randomly even days after it started up. Usually something like that is some sort of program you have running in the background that like periodically like some antiviruses will pop up a command prompt sometimes. It just depends on like your background programs. Like antivirus is the most common one that is going to pop up like a command prompt window like days after you started your computer because it's doing a routine scan, but it needs special permissions for that, so it has to run a command to get the special permissions so that it can check some of the things. That's usually what a pop-up like that would be my suspicion, but yeah. What is 3 by 4? That is the old aspect ratio of most monitors. Like old CRT TVs, those are 3 by 4, where it is 3 tall by 4 wide. No, other way around. Yeah, it's supposed to be 4 by 3. 3 tall, 4 wide. Where's one of my? I know I have a monitor that's like that somewhere. I have computers that are like that. What's better, 4 by 3 or 5 by 4? What is the one? Um, um, 3 by 2 is the one that I prefer. Okay, whoa, holy spam. Yeah, you're just getting muted this entire stream, and I'm not going to be bothering asking you questions or answering you questions. That kind of fucked, dude. Because that now there's like 5 other questions that I was reading through that I can't see anymore. Guys, please don't spam the chat. How long does it take to learn Python? It is completely dependent on the person learning. Some people will pick up Python and be able to program fully in it in just a matter of days. Some people it'll take months. Do I like Jeeps? Yeah. I grew up on MacGyver. I want a classic Jeep. Like I want MacGyver style Jeep. What to do if your CPU is not as good as it should be? What do you mean it's not as good as it should be? What's my advice for a computer science freshman? Uh, Practice and tinker in your free time. Find projects that you are interested in, so when you're done with your homework, you have something fun to do that is still related to your coursework. How to remove McAfee. Uninstall it and install a better antivirus. Malwarebytes and Bitdefender are my two favorites. How do I feel about Meshtastic? It's a fantastic system. It needs to be used more. How to remove 505 fail message in Internet Explorer. Just don't go to a page that's pulling up a 505 fail message. Also, how are you using Internet Explorer in 2026? Also, if I miss your guys' question, just because there's so many like comments coming in, so the thing I always recommend, if I miss your question and you actually want a genuine answer, on like if you're pulling the oh I want to stump the tech person, I'm not going to bother. But if I genuinely miss a question that you guys ask, wait until the chat on TikTok like has scrolled 2 times and then ask it again. Does Docker take away from learning proper system management? No, because not everything works in Docker, and Docker's also a proper system manager. How much do you know about connecting to something by remote on the internet, like remoting into your system? There's multiple different ways to do it, and like pretty like, phenomenal ways to do it. I mean, I'm using Chrome Remote right now for my live stream. That's how I connect to my streaming computer. Do I like Xbox? I love Xbox. Someone asked Chrome or Firefox. I prefer Chrome. I am staying completely away from Firefox because the route that Firefox has gone down, they've been a lot more pushy about their AI stuff. Yeah, to the person who is asking about how to build a DeX PC from using a Samsung phone, goodbye for the entire stream because you just spammed in my chat and made it so I can't read anyone else's messages. What about Zen browser instead? I mean, it's an option. I don't use it. I need the feature that's built into Chrome where I can have alternate profiles, and also my business runs on Google Admin, so. Okay, let's see. Does electricity flow from negative to positive or positive to negative? It flows to negative. The electrons, so here's a battery. Here's the dot on the top of the battery indicating plus and minus. The electricity flows this way. Right? No, other way. Other way. The actual electrons flow the other way. Right? That's always one of those dumb ones that always messes me up because it's backwards from what's intuitive. But then I also learned electrical engineering where they teach you the right way. So my brain's going, wait, which of the ways I was. Yeah, it's negative to positive. That's what I thought. And I'm just like, why is my brain. The thing you go off of is electrons usually in. Isn't electron usually. Yeah, because it's positron and No. I'm trying to remember how I used to remember it. Granted, this was back in high school, so that's like I'm not going to say how many years because that's going to make me feel old. Kevin, don't spam my chat, dude. Will you have issues running a gaming PC in an RV? It depends on the power setup in your RV. Do I have a PC? I mean, I have three right here running this live stream. How hard is it to get into computer science in university? Not that hard, as long as you have somewhat of a background of understanding how computers work. It's fairly easy to study computer science at a university. Oh yeah, no, like someone on TikTok is saying in most, like, when people are usually describing electricity flow, they're usually going to say it is positive to negative for simplicity's sake, because that's how people understand it. But in reality, how the physics actually works is it's flowing the other way. Yeah, no, like like it's one of those things. It's the same thing as like most kids in elementary school don't get taught that the entire solar system is moving through the universe. They just get taught the basic concept of we're orbiting the sun. And they also get taught, yeah, there's these circular orbits that orbit the sun. They don't get taught how wonky those orbits are or the pull of the other planets. Like, you always get taught a simplistic version of something, and then later on you get the actual concepts that are built on that foundation and correct that foundation. Okay, another person spamming. Goodbye. You've transformed your old laptop into a home lab. Congratulations. You put Ubuntu on it. Why'd you put Ubuntu on it? Because usually at this point, I usually recommend Debian if you're just going that on the bare metal, or if you actually want to have virtualization, I recommend using Proxmox on the bare metal and then doing virtual machines from there. Do I have a 3D printer? Yes, I have a Prusa Mark II that I haven't used in like 3 years at this point. Oh, you got your Network Plus certification the other day. Congratulations. Hopefully you're going after some jobs that require it. Can you overclock Intel laptops? Some Intel laptops you can overclock, but I wouldn't recommend it. Overclocking is not as useful as it used to be, and it's also more of a risk in this day and age because of how expensive computer part prices are. Do I use Linux? Yes. Do I have a first-person view drone? No, I do not. Yeah, usually, like, if you're going to do virtualization, I recommend Proxmox. If you're not going to do virtualization on your home lab server that's based off of or running off of a laptop, then I recommend Debian. Because Ubuntu has a little bit too much bloat for my liking. I love Ubuntu. It was like, for the longest time, that was the main operating system I've used. Like, I mean, I've been using Ubuntu since like version 7 or something like that. Can you overclock an Intel laptop if you have cooling for it? Again, the same thing I just said. You can overclock quite a few systems. Some of them you can't. It all depends on the actual chip that's in there and what the motherboard capabilities are. But I do not recommend overclocking. It's not actually worth it as much. And especially right now with part prices, it's even more so not worth it, because if something goes wrong and you fry your hardware, you're going to be paying like 3 times more for the same hardware right now. Every time you boot your PC, it makes a beep sound. That is it actually turning on and telling you that it is posting properly. Or is it a multiple beep? Because usually when your computer boots up, there is one singular beep when it first boots up. If it is multiple beeps, then there's something wrong with your computer and you need to look up the beep codes for your actual manufacturer to find out what's going on with it. I don't rate computer setups. Whatever setup, if the setup is working for you, that's the rating. It works for you. That's a fantastic rating. What is the best Linux platform for industry jobs? It all depends on the specific use case. Is VR dying? No, VR has hit kind of like an equilibrium of where it would normally be. It's just the hype has died down a little bit, and so you don't see it as much, but it's actually being used in use cases. I mean, we have a lot more AR type stuff now. It's just the technology is fairly new, and so it's taken a while for things to get into the equilibrium they should be. Should you change to an OS instead of Windows? Why would you change your OS? Like, what is the actual reason? The only time you should change your OS is if you actually have a reason behind changing the OS, not deciding to change your OS and then looking for a reason to change your OS. For performance, I mean, if you're going for like gaming performance, then Windows is probably going to be your best option if you're using an NVIDIA card, because NVIDIA doesn't work as well on Linux, especially with how many issues there are with the drivers for Linux and things like that. Okay, two more people getting muted. Guys, if you spam in the chat, you will just be muted for the whole live. Have I ever designed PCBs? Yes. There's actually a really cool thing that I'm enjoying watching right now is people using 3D printers to make their PCBs. So they will print out the circuit board as like the area that doesn't have any like conductive area is a lower lying area, and then the raised area is where the actual conductive stuff will be. And then they just use copper tape and put copper tape on the whole thing and then cut out the spots that they don't need it. And then they solder onto that. Like, that is a phenomenal way to make like prototype PCBs right now when you're trying to test if something works. That is phenomenal. Water cooling or air cooling, it kind of depends on the use case. I prefer AIOs, liquid cooled AIOs, because you don't have the massive maintenance that you do with full water cooling. And they actually perform better than air coolers as long as you get one that is two segments. I can't remember what the term is, 240 millimeter. Um, yeah. And so if you get an AIO that can only have one fan on it, it's kind of useless. Like, it's about as it has about the same performance as an air cooler. So yeah, I thought it was 240. I can never remember that one off the top of my head. Do-do. Oh no, someone said, Broski, I ain't asking nothing. You with those nails. Oh, how sad. Happy Pride. What was my favorite Flash game growing up? I actually have the sequel to it on both my PlayStation and my computer. Motherload. That was my favorite one. I played Motherload so many times. Um, Honestly, XGen Studios had some of the best games. Like, they were a Flash developer. Fantastic games. I miss those games a lot. I should go back and play some old Flash games because it would be really fun. If you've ever played Motherload, the old Flash game, let me know. Have you played Super Motherload, which is their follow-up version of that game, but for like they released it for PlayStation, PC, things like that. I love that one. Best headset with a mic. I really miss my Astros. I had wireless Astro headset that operated off of 5 gigahertz, and I loved that headset so much. It finally bit the dust. Like, it doesn't work. I want to get another one, but those things are pricey. What's my favorite GPU of all time? I don't have favorite GPU of all time. Let's see. I'm trying to keep up with chat, but holy cow. Okay, let me try to catch something. I don't know what cells you should use for. I don't even know what you're describing there. You just bought a CPU and didn't realize it doesn't have built-in graphics. Honestly, most decent CPUs do not have built-in graphics because the built-in graphics portion takes up a little bit of room on the actual die. And so, yeah. How did I make it into tech? Dropped out of college while studying robotics engineering and got an IT internship. What 3D do you recommend? I 3D what? 3D printer? I don't have a recommendation for a 3D printer. Any recommendations for a second GPU? Usually you want to go with the same GPU that you already have or similar GPU to that one, just like a bit of a downgrade. Like, I have a 1080 in my streaming system. I am going to be putting a 1060 in that system as well. Because they shouldn't cause problems for each other. There might be some problems, but there won't be as many problems. But usually you want to go with the same GPU, but you won't exactly get like a full like GPU's worth of performance boost. Start with Prusa if you're going to go into 3D printers. No, do not start with a Prusa as your first 3D printer. Please, God, no. How much solder smoke have I inhaled? Way too much for the long term of my health. Um, let's be honest. Do you really need a 1,000 watt power supply? It depends on the parts in your computer. I usually recommend going overkill on your power supply. That way you have room to expand. I have a 1,000 watt power supply as my test bench power supply. It was given to me by a customer who builds computers. And he's just like, yeah, I'm going to replace that power supply anyway. You can keep it. I'm like, okay. Have I used FPGAs for anything? I don't know what that is. Acronyms suck because you can't tell what it's talking about because some acronyms have like 50 million meanings and it's dumb. Are those $10 soldering kits on AliExpress good? No. Like, honestly, it doesn't cost that much to have a good soldering kit. Like, for a good soldering iron, you can get something like the Pine Sol that's less than $50. It is powered over USB Type-C or a barrel jack. Yeah. AMD or NVIDIA. I prefer AMD. Especially with NVIDIA trying to push AI stuff as much as it is. AMD is also trying to push AI stuff, but they're failing at it, so I take that as a win. Does undervolting affect performance? Yeah, it'll slow down performance. Like usually the reason you will undervolt something is if you have like a system that is just going to be running 24/7 and you would rather it not have as much of a power draw and you don't need it to have as much performance as it does. Intel or Ryzen? I prefer Ryzen. I prefer AMD over Intel mainly because of sockets. The fact that AMD has like currently we only have like um AM4, AM4 Plus, and AM5 as the current sockets. Oh, and the Ryzen socket. Um, we only have those handful of sockets, and there's countless CPUs that can work in those. Where Intel, like every generation, they have like 7 different sockets, and you can only use the same like CPU or one of like 2 that will also work in that one. Okay, yeah. Dudes, if you're going to spam, you get muted for the entire live. I need to put that on the screen, but yeah. Let's see. I think my cat wants to go outside. I have no clue what the ZBook Firefly PC is. Is Kingston a good budget SSD? Yes. Like Kingston is my go-to for budget drives. Honestly, it's the one I'm recommending to customers right now because other drives are way too pricey. Is a robot girlfriend possible? Yes, but it would still dump you. Yeah, like Kingston is a fairly solid brand. It's just not as performance driven as other brands and sometimes has a slightly higher failure rate because they're not using the top tier stock parts. Someone's trying to learn about tech. What's the best way to learn? What part of tech are you trying to learn? There's a lot of different aspects of tech. And so what area of tech are you trying to learn about? I had to let my cat outside. Okay, let's see. You want to learn and understand how PCs work. So in the future you can build them. Okay. So the thing I usually recommend, and this might be a little bit harder for you because I think you mentioned you're 15. Um, I recommend having like a part-time job and using some of that money to go to thrift stores and buy computers from thrift stores and then seeing if you can fix them, seeing if you can figure out what's wrong with them, see if you can fix them, see if you can upgrade them. And then sometimes you can resell them. I usually don't recommend reselling something that can't run Windows 11, but yeah, like that's a great way to get started in understanding how computers work, how the different parts work, what's actually going on with the computer, because you start diagnosing issues and you can start breaking down those issues. Should you get a new CPU? No, not right now. CPU prices are way too high. Am I running 1 or 2 monitors? One, two, three, four. I have a laptop right here. I have 2 monitors to my main desktop, and then I have a monitor connected to my secondary desktop. Do, 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 do. Let's see if this site has Yay. Okay. So someone asked, what is a good GPU? So the thing I usually recommend if you're looking at GPUs on my links list on my site right here, that one. On my website, there's a button right here that says tips and links. This is where I put like links to all of the stuff that I'm talking about, like during lives or things I recommend. You can even find down here, there are like tool recommendations. Then you have other creator recommendations. I'm trying to fill this out more and more as I go. But on here, you will find GPU benchmark. On this site, you will find best value. The thing I usually recommend is go through this list, and over here on the right, you can see the prices of these, and you can see the actual value that they have, like how much the GPU costs compared to how much it's actually giving you. Go through this list, find one that's in your price range, and then go from there. That's usually the thing I recommend the most. Like down the list, you're going to have some like that are way more powerful than ones up at the top of the list, but because they are priced so much higher, they rank lower. I go price and performance. You want the best value for what you're getting. Oh, this is one of my favorite ones that I've been finding out more and more. Someone copied and pasted a command into command prompt, and it's a command that either puts a rat on their computer, steals their data, or does something else not so great. Yeah, we're starting to see that one more and more because a lot of people have started injecting those type of commands into sites that AI will scrape. And so we are seeing more and more people copying and pasting a command that they don't know what it does, and then they get their stuff stolen. Yeah, do not just take a command at face value. Find out what the command does before you run a command, or else you can lose all of your data and have a rat installed on your computer. Which a rat is a remote access tool. It means anyone or someone else can have access to your computer at any time they want. How does a computer work? We electrocute rocks until they start thinking and have anxiety. Does computer security need a lot of code learning? Not really. It depends on what area of computer security you go into. Some aspects of cybersecurity need a ton of code, but quite a few of them do not need any. Why does RAM cost so much right now? Because Sam Altman told a bunch of RAM companies that AI was going to buy up all of the RAM. So those companies went, okay, we'll save it for the AI companies and we will say that all of it is sold out. And then it turned out they didn't actually want all that RAM. So companies kept the prices high and they're slowly coming down over time. But it's going to take a while. And then the other problem we have is there's a certain strait that is currently closed. And that strait does a lot of trade, especially PCB trade. Currently, PCBs can't make it anywhere into the world, at least from one of the biggest PCB manufacturers. So we also have that issue. Should you buy a MacBook for productivity and editing? I mean, especially if you're editing, MacBooks are fairly decent for video editing and projects like that. Let's see. How do you make an apple pie? You go to the store and you buy a pie crust, and then you get a can of apple pie filling. You pour that into the pie crust at home, and then you also need to pick up a pastry dough, which is usually rolled pastry dough. And then you slice that into strips and put it across the top of the pie, and then you put it in the oven. Usually on the can of the pie filling, it'll tell you what temperature and time. Someone wants to learn. Sounds like electronics based off of what they're describing. How long does it take? Not that long. There's a lot of really easy tutorials online and some fun games online that'll get you to build out circuits and learn how they work. Is 8 gigabytes VRAM enough? Yeah, for most people, at least at this point in time. We're slowly getting up to 16 gigabytes as the norm, but 8 still works for most. Self-hosting or AWS? I prefer self-hosting. Okay. Especially if you're going to make a joke comment and then spam it, you're definitely getting muted. How do you arm your Roomba? Tape. Duct tape. Yeah, some people can buy an electrical like component kit. I have one somewhere in this mess on my desk. But that doesn't exactly teach them electronics. Usually for electronics, I recommend starting with like web instructors. I mean, MIT has a lot of their classes online for free for people to view. You also have multiple games. I cannot remember some of the ones off the top of my head right now. But like starting in an environment where it's walking you through each step is way better than just getting a kit with infinite possibilities. Let's see. Someone needs a repairable laptop and they can't get a framework one. Usually I recommend business grade Lenovo and Dell laptops, not gaming computers. Do not go with gaming lines, even though Lenovo is getting a lot better with their gaming computers. I still recommend business grade just because it's more repairable. Can I build a full network company? What do you mean? Like an ISP? Where's the best place to put an AIO? Usually at the top of the case is going to be your best spot. Um, because you want it to exhaust the hot air, not bring the hot air into your computer. Um, some people will put it as the intake to their computer, and it doesn't give that much of a performance diff, but it gives a little bit of one from my experience. So usually you want to put it at the top of the case with the air pushing it out. Is Linux overrated? Yeah, I know a lot of people who make it very overrated. I love Linux to death, but it is not what a lot of people like claim it as. Ooh, someone's building a sports management simulator. That's cool. Explain the Pineapple Mark 7. Like what aspect? How can you get static public IP for free? Like you can't. Most static IPs are owned. You can like be technically leasing one. Holy shit, there's a Lego Shrek game. You can technically be leasing one from your ISP. But that's all dependent on your ISP and how long they put those leases out. Guys, don't spam in the chat. You will be muted for the entire stream. If you turn your Wi-Fi pineapple upside down, you get weird couples knocking at your door. Yeah, yeah. I've known a few people in my neighborhood who had upside down pineapples. It's fun. Wi-Fi or Ethernet cable? Which one is better? Ethernet cable. Okay, the person did not listen to me saying don't spam, so bye. Try again tomorrow, or not tomorrow, Tuesday. What is the most underrated technology right now? Honestly, e-ink. E-ink is one of the most underrated technologies that we have currently. Um, because we can do color e-ink currently, and we can have tablets like this one that you can draw on and like use like paper, and it works really well. And people just kind of sleep on this tech. Like e-ink is a fairly inexpensive technology at this point. How can you control fans directly? Why do you want to control the fans on your computer directly? Wait, did someone say I'm unemployed? That's fine. I'm self-employed. There's a difference. Unemployed, you usually have more money than being self-employed. Wow, someone thinks I'm unemployed. That's fun. Oh well. As I'm literally doing my job right now. You want to crank up your fans because of overheating. If your computer is overheating and like the fans are controlled by the motherboard, then the fans are already hitting their max. You controlling those fans is not going to change the overheating problem. Oh, thank you. Happy Pride. Yeah, even on a laptop, you controlling the fans is not going to stop it overheating. What you want to do is have like on a laptop having something underneath the laptop so it can get better airflow, or also making sure that the fans are properly cleaned every few months. Laptops in general are just hot. Is it a good idea to place a laptop in the fridge? No, because then you get water condensation. Thank you guys so much for the gifts. Also, if you guys want to help me out, if you are on TikTok or YouTube, tap on that screen a whole bunch of times. That helps me out a lot. Your computer crashes when you hit the desk a little. That sounds like honestly, that makes me think of a USB short. It sounds like one of your USB cables or one of the ports on your computer is having a USB short. Um, I would go around jiggling all the USB cables you have plugged in and see if that causes your computer to crash. That will tell you you need to replace that USB cable or replace the device that it's plugged into. Oh, more gifts. Thank you guys. You didn't explain the Pineapple Mark 7. What specifically do you want me to explain? When your fridge turns on, your monitor loses signal. That sounds like some crazy levels of interference. You might want to have someone come and look at your fridge because it should not be able to cause that much interference. Older fridges can, but that's kind of intense. Okay, I just saw the comment. come in and get driven off the. Oh, you just want me to give a complete overview of the Wi-Fi Pineapple? I mean, it's just a Wi-Fi repeater with some fancy tools to make it so you can act as a man in the middle. It's pretty much the same as. Where's this one? It's pretty much the same as this thing. It's just it has more tools to do man in the middle and cybersecurity stuff. Also over on TikTok, if you guys spam, you get muted for the entire live, FYI. Is a travel router worth it? Like one of these? I love this thing so much. It goes with me a lot. It went with me all of the time last year. If you guys didn't know, I was the caretaker for my mom while she was going through cancer treatment. And all through last year, I had this with me because most of the places we went to had public Wi-Fi that I could use. I had a VPN set up on this that would connect to my house. And like the VPN was at my house. This would just be a client connecting to my house. And then I would be on the internet from my home. Does BBQ spam count? I love actual spam. Spam prices are too dang high for me right now. It's driving me insane. Guys, don't spam in the TikTok chat. Yeah, stuff posing as meat is delicious. You have Wi-Fi 7 and game a lot. Is it worth getting Wi-Fi 8? Even Wi-Fi 7 is overkill for what you're doing, most likely. Can I tell you the whole lore of Devil May Cry? I haven't ever played Devil May Cry. It's not my type of game. Hypervisor or VirtualBox, those are two very different tools for two very different things. They both virtualize, but in two very different ways. VirtualBox is what I'm going to be using if I'm testing something on my computer. If I'm actually setting up a virtual server, then I'm using Hypervisor. Do I have a 3D printer? Yes, I have a Prusa that has been sitting on a shelf for like 3 years now and not doing anything. Okay, that was too good of a joke. Someone said VirtualBox is what they call their AI girlfriend. That was too good of a joke. How do you bypass FHSS when jamming? Why are you jamming anything? You do realize that is highly illegal, right? Any free certifications you recommend? I recommend learning pretty much any of the certifications. You just don't have to go take the test. I mean, heck, the study guides are fairly inexpensive. See, that's cheating. When you work for the DoD and you do pen testing, you have the permission to do the things I wish I could do. That takes me like a lot of legal work to make sure I'm doing in the green. Name of the travel router I showed? This is a GL iNet. These things are actually really, really nice. I love this one. Especially the fact that it's also like it has 2 LAN ports and 1 WAN port. So if you actually need it to be a wired router as well, it can also do that. So nice. Yeah, like the amount of times when like a business will ask me to do a test where I have to jam their signal, the amount of like the amount of paperwork and the amount of requirements to do that and not get in trouble. Wait until chat gets their CCMP. Do I have a Flipper Zero or an ESP32 Marauder? I do not have a Marauder, but I have worked with the Marauder a few times, mainly as a prop for things, but we had to get it fully working so it would work properly and show properly in the videos. But yes, I have a Flipper. I don't use it a ton. Like, it has some uses, but it's not nearly as useful as other tools. How often should you replace the coolant in your AIO? Pretty much never. Like, an AIO should outlive the like lifespan of your desktop. Like, I have seen some AIOs that are like 15 years old and they finally have started, like, they need new coolant, but even then I wouldn't replace the coolant in them because they're a closed loop. And so if you open that loop to replace the coolant, you're actually causing a spot where it could cause problems. They're not designed to have the coolant replaced in them. How often do you need to deep clean your PC? Usually I recommend like 6 months to a year. Like 6 months is usually the minimum for a deep clean. Maximum is like a year. Mine is at the point where I need to deep clean it. Um, like it has dust stuck to the front glass. Do I ever worry about large scale cell phone jamming at high volume events? Not really, because most event spaces, if they're going to be holding an event like that, they're already working with the cell carriers to have cell service in the building so that way they can cover that area properly. The main thing that becomes an issue is like, say there was a political event with a lot of people who do not like people who wave around this type of flag. Like, whenever those type of political events happen, there seems to be a weird thing where like the dating apps for these type of people crash because too many people are in the same location using those dating apps, which is weird because the people in that location are against this type of person. It's just weird, right? Like, you wouldn't think that Grindr would fail every time a certain type of convention is held, but it seems to pretty much every single time. Print Forge, yes, that mask, you did such a good job on that one. I forgot to comment on your video and I just got busy with other stuff. But dude, that was gorgeous. I really hope you can find the instructions for getting it to automatically open and close, because I think with some lights in there with a decent diffuser on top of them, it'll look amazing. Oh, no, like Dollface, like straight up. I know so many people that have those stories. It is hilarious. Last year I spent most of my year working with drag queens. I've heard stories about very high profile people. The tea I have heard, it is amazing. Should you learn how to deep clean or hire people to do it? It's not that hard to deep clean your system. You just need, like, where is this? You need a decent air blower. Let me make sure this is off so I don't accidentally bump it and blow everyone's eardrums. So let me move this stuff out of the way. For deep cleaning a computer, you need a decent brush. I usually recommend a toothbrush and an air blower. So like this brush is very like floppy, like it's not super stiff. Like you can see I can press the bristles down without much pressure. Like they just move out of the way. That's for your light dust that's on things. Then a toothbrush that like this usually will have decent bristles that can scrape things off without damaging components. And then an air blower. Because the thing you're going to do is you're going to air blow out the whole thing while holding your fan still, because you don't want your fan spinning. Because if you make your fan spin using an air blower, then you're generating electricity that can cause damage to the motherboard. Then after you blow out the initial dust, that's like the top layer, easy to remove, then you move on to something like this that is going to get a little bit more of that dust off. It's going to work it out of the cracks and crevices. Then you dust it again with an air blower. Then you move to the deep stuff that is stuck on. You use a toothbrush on the areas where you can see dust that is not coming off easily. Then you air blower it again. There's some dust that will just not be able to be removed. Like, especially on fans, they get a little bit of dust pretty much embedded in them that can't easily be removed. You can still wipe them down with like a damp cloth or a Clorox wipe on the fan blades to get some of that off. Or other thing that works really well, high percentage isopropyl alcohol. I put it in a spray bottle like this so I can spray it on there and then use something like, my favorite is Viva paper towels, because they're really soft and delicate while also standing up to like scrubbing. That's usually what I use if I'm going to be doing deep clean on a system, and it works really well. How long should you wait to repaste your CPU? Usually on a desktop, repasting your CPU is not something you need to do, except for like every half decade. Yay, TikTok says that I'm inactive as I'm talking to chat. Like honestly, you should be able to go like, for a laptop, the laptop will most likely fail before you need to repaste your redo your thermal paste on your laptop. Desktop, usually like 5 to 8 years of use is when you repaste. Thermal or graphics cards, you don't need to. Most graphics cards, you will never need to repaste those. Is building a PC really hard for someone who doesn't know anything about PCs? Not really. There are brilliant tools out there now like PC Part Picker that will help you pick out parts that are compatible and let you know what things you need to change about your build or what things you need to add on. And then even on top of that, most components are like, you can tell where they go in. It's like square block, round hole, trying to put it in. It's not going to go. You're going to put it in the square hole. Like there's some things that you can miss, and that's why I usually recommend watching videos. Like I know Jay's 2 Cents has done building videos in the past that show you every step of the way. A lot of different computer like content creators did videos showing how to build a computer after a certain news outlet showed a video on how to build a computer, and they failed so hardcore that pretty much all content creators went, yeah, hey, Verge, you guys really did that badly. What about cable management? Is it really important? Honestly, on your first computer, it's not really that important. Um, and most people, if you look in the back of their case, like on a computer case, when you're building a custom build computer, there's 2 side panels that you can open. The one you can access the motherboard and everything like that. That's where you mostly have open. The other is where you hide all of your crimes. Am I on the software or hardware side of IT? Depends on the day. I run a computer repair shop, so I do more hardware stuff than I do software stuff. But from the IT perspective, when I'm actually doing contract jobs, I'm doing all of the above. What phone brand do I recommend? I really like Samsung phones. They are my favorite. You repaste your laptop every 6 months. Is that good or bad? That's not good. You do not need to repaste your laptop thermal paste every 6 months. You don't even need to do it every 6 years. Usually, okay. Usually for a laptop, most of the time you can get away with, honestly, on the low end, every 8 years. On the high end, every 12. Mid range should be every 10 years for a laptop. Like, honestly, laptops, you don't need to repaste them that often or at all. Usually your laptop will fail before you need to repaste it. With a desktop, usually I recommend mid range is going to be 8 years, low end is going to be 6, high end is going to be 10. Honestly, you can get away with doing it every 5, but you don't need to. Usually. Opinion about 8 GB VRAM GPUs. I don't see a problem. You have a gaming laptop. What can you do to use it at its fullest? I mean, most gaming laptops are already like built so that they are already being used at their fullest. What MacBook is enough as an only computer for a student? MacBook Neo. That's actually what I'm recommending to student clients for my repair shop. The MacBook Neo, like the specs for it are really good for the price. And especially if you're able to do all your work on a MacBook, there you go. What is the best soldering gun for soldering? I don't use a soldering gun. I use soldering irons like this one. This is a Pine-Sol. What voltage do we use in the US? I mean, most common plugs like these are 120 volt. Like right above here, I have power outlets, 120 volt AC. Another unemployed one. You do realize I'm doing my job right now, right? On weekdays, I run a business. On evenings and weekends, I work as a content creator making money. Currently waiting for two companies to pay me. Why not 230 volts like in the EU? I feel like that's overkill. Yeah, what is rest? I do not rest. I chug Monster. Do I prefer command prompt or PowerShell? PowerShell at this point, especially because you can type up like full on code into PowerShell and have it run. Best soldering station for surface mounted. I mean, soldering iron, I would still go with the Pine-Sol. And then honestly, the hot air rework station I use, I paid $80 for. It was a very inexpensive one. And it works a dream. Like, I know better, like, I know more expensive ones would work better and be easier to use and things like that. But especially if you're starting out, like, inexpensive tools are not going to be the worst thing in the world. You're about to change your laptop thermal paste. Any tips? Why are you changing your laptop thermal paste? How old is your laptop? How do you turn DC current into AC? Why are you changing direct current into alternating current? Usually you want to change alternating current into direct current for circuits. Your laptop is 3 years old and it's thermal throttling. That's most likely the fans instead of your thermal paste. Thermal paste on a laptop should usually last you roughly 10 years without you needing to repaste it. If you're running into thermal throttling, then it's usually the fans and things clogging up the fans. How can you remove old solder from a controller? I mean, you have a few different options there. Usually the easiest one, let me grab. Usually you're going to use solder wick. So with solder wick, you're going to put it on top of the area you want to get the solder off of, and you're going to heat it up using your soldering iron like this. And then it, as you're going to see, it's going to flow the solder into the solder wick because this attracts solder. Solder likes to stick to copper, so if there's bare copper, solder is going to flow towards it. Thermal paste being dry does not mean the thermal paste is not working. A lot of thermal paste actually works when it is dry. If anyone asked a question while the person was spamming, you're gonna have to ask your question again because I can't see your guys' questions now. How to download more RAM? Don't do it. It's a trap. Can a network technician become a network engineer? Yeah. I mean, most anyone can become a network engineer. So, is CCNA the best certification for networking? I mean, it's one of the best, honestly. It's one of the most recommended and one of the most required, honestly. Like most places that need network admins or network engineers will usually require CCNA, even if they're not using Cisco equipment. When you want to send electricity over long distances, um, you turn AC into DC. Well, most of the time in the US, we're sending AC over long distances. Um, But okay, what is the reason you would need AC current? AC current is not really used. Most devices turn AC current into DC. And I know I'm saying alternating current, but how much can you mess up building your first computer all by yourself with no experience? You can accidentally bend a pin and then you need to replace the motherboard or the CPU, whichever one has the pin. Like that is the usually the processor is going to be the most common thing that you'll mess up because you have to like imagine this is the processor going into the slot. If you accidentally like tilt it down as you're putting it in, you can bend a pin and cause issues. So you just got to be careful as you do it. You're in the EU and here you use AC. I can pretty much guarantee you your devices do not actually use AC. They usually use DC, but they're bringing in AC and converting it into DC. Most electronics use DC, not AC. Like the way you can tell is like here's a laptop power connection. This converts AC into DC and then steps down the voltage to what the computer needs. You're doing your master's in IT, but you really love the hardware aspect. Any advice? What hardware aspect are you meaning? Um, because worked IT for a very long portion of my life, still work contract IT when I can get gigs. Um, but I run a computer repair shop because I like repairing computers. It's a fun way to keep my brain busy. How AC current is turned into DC, that one's easy. Converting DC into AC is a lot harder. So, most commonly is coming in and it's getting split. You'll see this diagram a lot. Let me grab my electronics. Okay. I do not know what I did with my electronics engineering book from college. Oh, it's right there. Okay. What I need. Back here. I want page 604 because I want to make sure I'm writing the right symbol for this. Okay, yep. That's what I thought. So, I remember how to draw this properly. Let me just look it up really quick. It's one of the most basic circuits. Um, do, do, do. Okay, there we go. Yep. So AC comes in here, and then you have diode. Also, AC comes in here. You have a diode there. I'm drawing this right? I'm drawing it wrong. Okay. So this is going to be your negative. This is going to be your positive. You want the diode going this way. Sorry, it's been like 6 years since I've had to draw an AC to DC converter. And then positive, negative. So this is an AC to DC converter. You have your positive right here and your negative right here for the DC current. So what this is doing so one of these is going to be, because of how AC works, it's going to be positive and then negative flipping between these two repeatedly. And so as it comes into here, if this line is positive right here, then it's just going to go to the positive line. If this line's positive, it's just going to go to the positive line. Whichever line is negative is going to connect to the negative line, because diodes only let electricity flow in one direction. So this causes AC to convert into DC, but it's going to be the same voltage as what's coming in. Granted, there's going to be a little bit of a drop because of like electronics components and not having perfect like theoretical electronics versus practical electronics, slightly different. Does that all make sense? AC to DC converters are very fun. I've built a few. Do I have a trick on how tight to attach a CPU heatsink / AIO pump? Usually most like AIOs, once like there is no like tightening it too much. Like for AIOs, most of them are like set so once you tighten the screw and it doesn't move, that's where you stop. That's how AIOs usually do their mounting at this point. When it comes to other types of mounts, you don't want to be exerting too much force. It's more about feel than anything else. DC to AC converters are not really used that often. Most of the time, you're going to be converting AC into DC. There are some DC to AC converters, but they're more complicated. They're not an easy circuit, but it's not something that like most people will normally do. Yeah. That's going to be DC to AC. Way more complicated, way more finicky, and not really that useful. Most people are converting AC to DC because most electronics use DC. So there's no real point in having AC. That's why, like, in cars and things like that, some cars have an outlet, but it's usually a high priced thing to have in a car. How much should you care about using Cat 6 over Cat 5e for networking? Usually it all depends on future proofing and like what speeds you need to get to. Because Cat 5e is, I want to say 100 meg per second, right? Or can it get up? Oh, it gets up to a gig. Where Cat 6 is going to be 10 gig, right? Yeah. So most of the time, most people don't need anything more than Cat 5e. Cat 6 is a little bit overkill for most people because they don't have like 10 gig internet into their house. They don't have 10 gig switches throughout their house, making it work on the back end. Like Cat 6 is overkill for a lot of people. So if you're a home user, honestly, Cat 5e will suit you fairly well. But if you're trying to future proof or doing an office install, you're going to want to do Cat 6. Is it normal for your CPU temps to be 60 degrees C when gaming? That's low for when you're gaming. That's very low. What is it at idle? You have a Pine-Sol. Do I recommend any other firmware than the stock firmware? Not really. I use the stock firmware. I just updated my Pine-Sol too to the latest one. What RAM do I recommend for gaming? Whatever RAM, like RAM is RAM, honestly, in my opinion. Like, yes, there's higher specs for different brands and things like that, but not really much of a benefit. What's the best thing you can do with sub gigahertz on a flipper? I have no opinion on that. Sub gigahertz stuff I don't really do often on the flipper. I don't even use the flipper that much. People think it's a really awesome, fancy, cool device, but it's a fun little toy that can do some cool things. Um, Someone's asking, should they use the DC jack or the Type C on their Pine-Sol? I use the Type C all of the time. Like, I have quite a few places I can plug this in. I mean, even this thing on my desk has Type C power that I can plug into this thing, and it works brilliantly. So we're officially done with the AI questions. Yeah, like every time I've switched over to the AI topic, no one like actually debates it. Like they will usually go, well, you're saying that there's no good things that AI does. And I'm like, no, that's not what I'm saying. Like that's usually what it comes down to is people going, yeah, I agree with all those points, so let me make up something that you never said. Honestly, in probably like 10 minutes, I can switch over to the AI one if people want. Here, let's put it to a test. If you guys want me to switch over to the AI topic and start talking about AI stuff, you need to get me to 10,000 likes on TikTok. I will switch over to this topic where I talk about how AI is harmful, greed driven, and a bubble. But in order to do that, the likes at the top of the screen have to get to 10K. Tell us about CPU overclocking. Why? You're spamming my chat. Why should I tell you? Um, YouTube channels you can learn from. I mean, my two favorite ones that I usually recommend because a lot of people ask me hardware questions and like personal computer questions. I recommend Jay's Two Cents and Gamers Nexus, especially Gamers Nexus for news. Gamers Nexus is phenomenal. I need to let my cat in really quick. That was like the saddest she's walked in. She's like, "Am I allowed in?" She like sneakily walked in. Okay, let's see. What questions do people have? Whoa, that's a lot of new comments. Um, are LTT and WAN worth it? I don't watch Linus Tech Tips. I can't stand Linus Tech Tips. Most of Linus Tech Tips stuff is sensationalized. Like look through, I haven't looked through his recent videos, but I'm willing to bet if you look through the last 12 videos, there's at least two that are like the biggest computer ever. 5 computers in one system, like over sensationalizing things. Like that's what Linus Tech Tips is. It's clickbait tech. You have Bluetooth headphones and the left part of them are not working. So usually in Bluetooth headphones, like these are mine. So most of the components for it to work are going to be in this side, because here's all my buttons and everything like that. This side is usually just a speaker in the housing. Sometimes they have like the battery or things like that over in this side as well. But the main issue that causes one side to not work is the cable connecting between the two is broken somewhere or has come deconnected from the actual internals. So honestly, most Bluetooth headphones are not designed to be opened or fixed. So trying to get them to work again is going to be very hard. But sometimes there's a chance, especially if it's worth it to you. Yeah, spamming in my chat just gets you muted and your question will not be answered. What are servers made for? I mean, it's in the name. They're serving something to a user. Yeah, no problem. I have actually fixed headphones before. It's fairly rare for me to fix headphones at my repair shop, but I've gotten a few people who have had very sentimental headphones, like they were their parents or they were given to them by their parents, or it was like headphone merch from like a very specific like band and that type of thing. Like I think it was Guns N' Roses branded headphones that someone brought in, and like we replaced the entire speaker and the connection cable for those ones. Am I skipping over pop quiz questions? If you're trying to stump the tech guy, I usually will just skip over those questions, but most of the reason I haven't answered some questions right now is because chat is going like none other, so it's hard for me to catch some. If you guys want your chat questions prioritized, YouTube and Twitch are the priority chats. TikTok moves really, really quickly, so trying to catch something sometimes is hard. Can you ask about AI stuff? If you can get the likes on the top of the screen to 10,000, I will switch over to AI topics. Why did I ban you? I don't block or ban people. I will usually mute someone for an entire live if they spam in my chat. Yeah, and now you just came back. You were muted, so you could hear me say why I muted you, because you were still in the live stream, and then you came back to spam again. Okay. Um. Someone asking which graphics card they should get. I see a couple of YouTube questions on there. So, if you want to know which graphics card you should get and you want to compare them, this site is Video Card Benchmark. You can find it on my links list. It is the second one on tips and links currently. If you go over to this site, you can actually look up different GPUs and then compare them together to see the difference between those two. It also has this list that I love, which is the price to performance comparison to tell you which ones are the best, like price to performance right now. Your iPhone can detect your RFID. Oh, I just lost that. Let's see. Where did it go? Where did that question go? Oh, there it is. But well, RFID and NFC are two different things. So And also on iPhone, it does restrict and limit the capabilities of some apps. So it might be that you have a permission turned off that will not let you see RFID and NFC cards in like the actual software that you're trying to see it in. Any way to fix the failed RGB on sticks of RAM, I'm guessing? Honestly, I don't think there is, sadly. It's one of the reasons I don't like light up RGB on fans and things like that because it's not something you can easily fix usually. Windows is updating your AMD driver, but it's deleting it and your monitor goes black and you have to restart and reinstall the driver. I would try manually installing the driver that Windows is trying to install because it sounds like it might just like there's every so often that a driver gets sent to Microsoft or like is put into their database to install and it doesn't exactly work properly. Can you hack GTA 6 clips? GTA 6 isn't even out yet, guys. Can you simulate a fingerprint scanner lock using Arduino chip? I don't know what you mean. Like, are you trying to make a fake fingerprint scanner that looks like a real one, like as a prop? Because, yeah, that's fairly easy on Arduino. You just have a button set to display something on the screen, and you have an animation that looks like a fingerprint scanner. Can't ask questions. Text is too short. There are two other locations you can ask questions over on YouTube and over on Twitch. Both of them have longer chat messages than TikTok has. And if you spam your question, I will not answer your question. Am I a game developer? No. What is my Twitch? It is the same exact as it is here, and it is also on my website. There's like a direct link to it right there. I did read your question the first time, and it's a dumb question that I'm not going to answer. And then you started spamming it more and more. I was actually going to address your question, but you had started spamming it already. Why should I respect you and answer your question if you're not going to respect me? Have the day you deserve. Why no AI? Because honestly, like, I have an entire topic about why AI is harmful. And honestly, I'm just kind of tired of the constant, hey, what AI should I use to offload all of my thought process onto and just become sludge? Like, it's exhausting. What stuff do you recommend for an electronics home lab? Like building your own electronics? I mean, breadboard is the most common. A decent soldering iron, like a pine sol. I also highly recommend if you can get an inexpensive desoldering gun. Those things are amazing. There's like a few out there for like $80. Yeah. Do I know about Fast API backend? I do not, but I'm trying to think. There's a content creator here on TikTok. Let me see if I can find her really quick. She does a lot of API work. Do I have a website? The website is literally on the screen. Ta-da! Friends. It's one of my recent friends. Let's see. I want to see if she's actually. Nope. She is not active on TikTok anymore. Dang it. I was going to recommend someone who does API stuff, and she no longer is active on TikTok, apparently. Spy PO. Good job. You're getting muted for the entire stream because you spammed in my chat. What is the most important component to a GPU when looking for one? VRAM, bandwidth, honestly, usually the most important thing that I look for in a GPU is the actual performance rating that different sites give it. Different sites have different metrics. Like, I mean, here on Passmark, you can see their metric. They use 3D Mark. I mean, it's their company. So they use 3D Mark and how it rates in 3D Mark. That's usually what I go off of when I'm looking at GPUs, is what their actual performance rating is going to be over anything else. What is the best PC money can buy for gaming right now? I have no clue. I do not look at what PCs are currently available. Do you know programming? Yes. I studied robotics engineering, which meant I had to learn electronics engineering, mechanical engineering, and software engineering. What are oscilloscopes used for? They are used so you can actually see data that is being sent over lines. So, like, most computers use zeros and ones. A zero is just a flat spot. A one is when it goes up and then back down. So this would be 0, 1, 0. And then we can do 1, 1, 0. To see this over... Oh, wait. You can't actually see my thing right now. So like this. So this is the electrical signal that's going through the wire. It goes up and then back down and then back up, and then back down. So this represents the data. Like, this would be you pressing your K key or something like that on your keyboard. It's just that transmission of data over a line. An oscilloscope is able to see this data. Also, when it comes to like analog stuff, it's able to see like the frequency data, like how it's going like that. That's what an oscilloscope is used for. Guys, if you spam in the chat, you get muted for the entire live and I don't answer your question. FYI. Is it worth getting a network degree and certification? It's worth it if that's what you want to go into. Like, that's the other thing. Like, if you're going to get a job, you should get a job that you actually want to do, not just one that, like, is recommended. Like, because if you do a job that, like, someone recommended to you because it's just like, oh, yeah, you can make decent money at this job, but it's not a job you like, then it is going to be a slog to do that job and you're going to hate it. Have I heard about the new NVIDIA Spark? Yes, I have heard a lot about the NVIDIA Spark, and I'm waiting for it to actually come out for us to know if it's actually useful. Dude, why are you spamming the same question over and over again? Also, a question I will not answer because of what's on the screen. You've been here when I've said to people that they're getting muted for the entire live because they're spamming. AMD SVM. What is AMD SVM? Okay. You're just going to keep spamming it? I'm just going to mute you. Thank you for asking good questions, but then you went too spammy. What is the NVIDIA Spark? It is their new chip that they're using to compete with like Intel and AMD. And it's like the Apple Silicon where it uses a lot less power for a lot of performance. And so I'm waiting to see if it actually meets what they are saying it does. Because, I mean, it's NVIDIA. They know their stuff, but at the same time, NVIDIA has been a little bit too dishonest in things for me to really trust what they're saying until it actually comes out. Is undervolting still a thing? Yeah. I have a couple servers that are undervolted because I don't need them to run at 100%. I just need them to run 24/7. You're having trouble desoldering. What is actually going on when you're trying to desolder it? The things that I would recommend, for one thing, make sure you're using solder wick. I would recommend also flux, heat gun, along with solder wick, works really well. And then the other thing, let me find where. Um, this is a removal alloy. So this is not solder, but this is super low melt. So like it melts at 143C. So you mix this stuff. Let me do. There's a few different names that it goes by, but this stuff is one of the best things for removing components if they're not wanting to cooperate. Like especially if you're working with something like something that's attached to a ground line, because on a circuit, a ground line is usually going to be able to soak up a lot of heat. So when you're trying to desolder something, it's just taking all that heat away from the area you're trying to desolder. And so using something like this and mixing it in with the solder that's already there will lower the temperature of that solder, like what temperature it melts at. And so it makes it a lot easier to remove when the solder still stays liquid, when it doesn't have the soldering iron directly on it, or when you're trying to do it through something like solder wick like that. So yeah, super low melt alloys that can mix with solder are one of the best things for that. What do you use servers for? Serving things to users. Um, I mean, I run game servers, like local game servers that I can play on. When I'm playing Minecraft mod packs, I really love putting it on a server. That way I'm not overloading my computer with too much stuff. Um, then also like Factorio servers are super fun. Playing with a few different people. Um, like I have file servers, I have media servers. Um, Backup servers are a very common thing for people at this point. Is it worth opening GTA Online server? No, because if you try to make money off of it, the company will shut you down and sue you. Can you DIY RAM? Like actual RAM for a computer, or just like you want to make RAM to see how RAM is made and like what goes into RAM? Because you can't really DIY RAM that's going to go into a computer. That like it's too complicated of a thing for you to really make at home in a reasonable way. Um, but if you want to see how RAM actually works, you can do the classic of doing a grid of copper wires going like this, and then at the intersections you put a ceramic bead like this. And that's how old school RAM actually worked. It was woven using copper wires and ceramic beads. Because if you put, I want to say, it's been so long since I did this. Um, if you light up both of these lines, this will hold the charge. Where those two lines meet, it will hold the charge. So you just have to program it into the right spots. Is Steam Machine going to be a good choice? I mean, I'm hoping it will, because that one is one that I'm actually hoping to have as a secondary system here, just for gaming, like hooked up to a projector. Because I am a big fan of a system that you don't have to maintain for you to play a game. I just got my Xbox hooked back up properly, like with all of the studio stuff. I've had to rearrange things so many times that things just don't work that are like my non-studio things. I just got my Xbox fully hooked up and working again so that I can play Xbox games, and I've missed it. I've missed having a console that I can just turn on and it works. This wall right here is my projector wall for my Xbox. What is the best $300 GPU for gaming? I mean, I have the page open right here. So the best bang for your buck for around 300 is going to be the 1080 Ti. That's going to give you the best performance for 269 bucks. Honestly, usually I would go with an AMD card. So like something like the 7600. AMD was doing a lot better than Nvidia when it came to price to performance for the past little bit, but it's kind of switched. Like everything's a little bit up in the air because of like trade wars going on and things like that. Um, but yeah, like right now, 1080 Ti, fairly old card at this point. Not a ton of performance, but it's going to give you the best bang for your buck if you're looking under $300. Let's see. I wish I could filter this list. What's the best firmware for the Flipper Zero? Oh, what is the name of that firmware? There's one that I actually like. I don't run it on mine. I should, honestly. I'm trying to remember the one that I like. Really, Momentum. That's the one that I like most. Because I've used different firmware on the Flipper Zero for like video production stuff for like props, and honestly, Momentum works really well. I'm going to be right back. You guys hang out. Yeah, that one. Okay. What's a Flipper Zero anyway? It's pretty much if you took a bunch of different cybersecurity tools or hacker tools and put them in a Tamagotchi. There's been tools like this in the past, and I really need to make one of them because there's a thing called a Ponagotchi, which is actually, in my opinion, better than a Flipper. It's just Flipper is like the one that most people think of and the one most people talk about. What YouTube electronics course should you watch? Ooh, I don't know. Because when I was studying electronics and electrical engineering, YouTube was not actually that big of a thing. Now that I've said that out loud, I'm going to go to the retirement home. Let's erase the RAM from the board. Can you technically make a Wi-Fi jammer using an ESP32? I want to say you need. No, you should be able to do it with one. But it would be very illegal to turn it on. What is the usual suspect when your PC suddenly shuts down when playing a game? No hanging and no blue screen. That would be overheating. Some component, either your GPU or your CPU, usually your CPU, is overheating. Yeah, like I have, like, literally behind me in most videos, this thing right here on my shelf, this is a Deoth watch. It's a jammer watch for Wi-Fi's. I can select a Wi-Fi and make that Wi-Fi stop working. It is highly illegal for me to use that. You can own one, but using it is illegal. How long can your 5080 last? I mean, I just barely stopped using my 1080 in my main computer. Oh, that feels so much better. Mm. Don't mind me. I'm just cooling myself off. How long have I had that Deoth watch for? It was actually given to me by another TikTok creator. Um, I want to say 4 years ago. Yeah, probably 4 years ago. You are traveling overseas and you're in need of a power bank recommendation. Where is? I mean, that's part of it. Oh, here it is. This is my power bank recommendation. Well, not this exact one because they no longer sell this one. This is by Charge. SHARGE. One of the reasons I love this one, full display telling me what it's doing, the input and output, what the temperature is, everything. Um, and then on this end, you have two Type C's. One of them can charge the device. And then you also have a DC barrel jack that you can actually set the output voltage for. So if you need to do electronics work and you only have like your power bank with you, you have a DC jack that can output voltage to power another device. I love this thing. When I got it, they sent it to me. I haven't been in love with this thing ever since they sent it to me. They also sent it with the solar panel that goes with it. Charge has made amazing devices. I have a few different devices from them. They make phenomenal batteries for taking places, and they make sure they can go on a plane. I took this with me to New York City. I flew on a plane with this in my bag, and they're just like, yep, that's perfectly fine. It's within the regulations. So yeah. Have I ever seen Silicon Valley? No, it's on my list. Can you bring a portable Wi-Fi when you travel? Yeah, I recommend one of these. This is a GL iNet. Granted, this one is now, I don't think you can buy it in the US because of the stupid US laws. Yeah, I've seen clips from Silicon Valley, and I feel like I would like it as well. Oh, you're going to Japan? That's going to be fun. What is you? What is Utilman? .exe. That is a Windows backend program that controls different utilities in Windows. It's usually what controls like accessibility tools like on-screen keyboard, magnifier. Um, oh, what's the thing called in Windows where it reads the text on the screen? Screen reader. And things like that. Oh, there we go. How to start the path of cybersecurity? Try to break things you own, and try to put them back together. Because I usually recommend if you're going to work and do anything in cybersecurity, from the get-go, you should do both red team and blue team. You should do red team where you're trying to get into the device, and you should do blue team where you're trying to prevent yourself from getting into the device. Usually you do this circle over and over again. You set up a server or some system or software, and then you try to crack into that system. Then once you've done that, you go back and you patch that system so you can't get into it that way again. Then you go back and you try to crack into that system, and you just keep doing this circle over and over again. So that way you're learning the different ways you can break into your systems and the ways you can protect yourself from that. Should you start in Linux? It's up to you. It depends on what you have and what you actually are able to get into. Linux is just an operating system. Usually, I would recommend starting with Windows because it's the most common one. And you can find a lot of things for you to like tweak and fix and make sure that they aren't accessible anymore. Have I ever gone to DEF CON? Nope. St. Con is coming up in, I think, September. And I'm going to be pestering one of my friends to see if they want to grab drinks while they're at it. Tell you about digital twins. What do you mean by digital twins? What if you don't have BIOS on your PC? Your computer always has BIOS installed. No, Linux in and of itself does not have unique tools for cracking. There are operating systems out there that do have tools built in, but they're just tools you would add into Linux normally if you're going to go the Linux route. But yeah, I don't recommend using those things until you've learned how to use them first. Am I from Canada? No. So you have a job in tech. Yes, I'm a contract IT guy and I run a computer repair shop. I also teach people tech on the internet. Literally what I'm doing today. How do I start scamming old people for money? You join the company Bricks and Minifigs. A good project to start with a Raspberry Pi to learn networking. The one that you could do, there's some different ways to do it. Usually getting a Raspberry Pi, and let me grab one of these. My Raspberry Pi has a whole bunch of stuff plugged into it currently because it runs as a KVM. Um, but you get a Raspberry Pi and a USB network adapter like this because you already have one network port here. You have another one. If you have both of those, you can turn this into a router. This would be where your internet comes in, and then this one you would have plug into like a network switch that feeds the internet to everything else. Then you can actually control the traffic that's in your network and start learning how to do networking using a Raspberry Pi. It's not the best way to do it, but it is a cool way to do it via Raspberry Pi. And you quickly learn why Raspberry Pi is usually not recommended for it. AIO or fans, which is the best for cooling? Usually an AIO is going to be better for cooling than an air cooler. If you're using an AIO that can only have one fan on it, then that's about the same as using an air cooler, like roughly. Does using a gaming laptop with the power plugged in destroy the battery faster? Yes. Because so the thing that's happening when you're using a laptop with the battery plugged in, so what is happening is this is the percentage of your battery that is charged. So when your battery hits 100% while it's plugged in, it goes, okay, the battery's done charging. We're no longer going to charge the battery. Then the battery goes down to 99% and it goes, oh, the battery's not fully charged. We're going to recharge the battery. Goes back to 100%, then it goes back down to 99, back to 100, back to 99, and it keeps doing this over and over. And that is called a recharge cycle. And there are only a fixed number of recharge cycles that a battery is rated for. And so when you're using up those cycles to keep recharging it like that, then the battery fails faster and faster. That's why you start getting puffy batteries and things like that, because the battery has failed and is not supposed to charge anymore past that point. Like newer batteries have that problem less than older batteries, but it's still a problem. It's one of the reasons why if you're going to be gaming on a computer and it's always going to be at a desk, I recommend getting an actual gaming desktop instead of getting a laptop. How to clean a GPU? Oh, I don't have my example ones in here. Let me grab my example one. Example GPUs. This is a 1070 and this is a 1060. So you're going to want like a brush like this. I also recommend having a toothbrush that is new. Do not use your own toothbrush. Go to the dollar store, get an inexpensive toothbrush. But like this is a very soft brush, like very nice. It is not going to harm anything. But usually the thing I would do, so on a blower like this, I'm going to hold my finger on there to hold it still. And I'm going to work the bristles in between each of the fins. You can see some of the dust bunnies already coming out of there. And you're just going to work the bristles in there. So it's just moving the dust. It's getting it so it's not stuck to the surfaces. And you're just going to do that. You're just going to keep going around, rubbing it between the fins, moving it a little bit, and then rubbing it between the fins. And then you're going to use like a can of air or an air blower like this. You're going to have to hold the fan as you do it because you don't want the fan to spin. And you're going to start blowing this. And you want to work the stuff. So this fan is designed to blow the air this way. It's supposed to come out of this side of the card. So you want to start working it around like this. So you start blowing the stuff this way and moving it to go this way. So you start going that way. And then once you get to this direction, you just start moving it back and forth to blow everything out that way. Then you come to this end and you start blowing the air in this way into the card. And then you come back here and you do it again, blowing it that way, because you're just trying to work the dust out. That is for a card that is a blower design. So a blower design, if you look at that fan, see how the blades are all standing up like that? Instead of a fan like this where the blades are laying down, this is a blower. This is just a normal cooling fan. This is designed to blow the air out that way. You just want to move all that dust so you can then blow it out. On this type, you're going to do very similar. You're going to be moving the brush like this around because you're trying to clean out that heat sink down there. And the only way to get to it is through the fan. So you're going to be moving it like this. Then you're going to come in from the sides, move it like that. Come in from the sides, move it like that. There's some areas you can't exactly get to, but that's where this comes in. Then you hold the fan because you don't want the fan to move. You blow the air, you blow the air, and then you blow the air. And that is how you clean a GPU. Just a reminder to anyone in the chat, if you spam your question, you will get muted for the entire live. FYI. How to fix your laptop. If when you disconnect the charger, it instantly turns off. That means you need to replace the battery. The battery is not able to hold a charge. The way you can verify this is a program called BAT Info. All one word. It is a free piece of software. You download that and you run it, and it'll tell you what the health of your battery is. Because your battery is just shutting down instantly, I'm guessing the health of your battery is past critical. It's at such a low percentage, it can't hold a charge enough to keep the computer running. So download that software, run it, see what the health of your battery is. If it's anything less than like 50%, you definitely need to replace that battery. Is overclocking worth it? No, not in my opinion. Especially with the cost of hardware at this point. Hardware cost is way too high to make it worth overclocking your hardware. If something goes wrong during overclocking, which often, like especially for a novice, it will, you can do damage to your components that would require you to replace them. And at the current prices, it's not worth it. What's a safe percentage for your GPU to be at when you're playing games? Honestly, 99% is fairly normal, especially in a graphics heavy game. That's just going to tell you what your bottleneck is going to be. You can upgrade your GPU to get better performance, but yeah, especially right now, I wouldn't recommend it. I would just recommend downing the graphics settings a little bit. Nowadays, is it worth it to buy brand new GPUs or go for secondhand? I recommend going for secondhand, but one of the problems is we're starting to see some games have like ban lists that base it off of the hardware in your computer. I haven't confirmed this, but some people have said that the GPU in their system that they bought secondhand was from people who had gotten banned, and that meant they couldn't play some online games. What field is my specialty? Servers. Like, I worked head of IT for nonprofits for a decade, so I had to know everything. Pretty much I was the entire IT department for quite a few organizations, to the point where I had to know everything in IT to cover them. And now I run a computer repair shop and I do contract IT work. But when I was doing all of that stuff, the main specialty that I was really good at, that I loved, was server work, especially Windows admin stuff. Like, I got paid a decent amount of money after I quit my old job to do group policy stuff. If you don't know what group policy is, that is what actually controls your computer in most enterprise environments. It is what controls what software is installed on your computer, what updates get pushed to your computer, how you log in, where your files are located. All of the little niceties on your computer are controlled by group policy. What do you call an engineer who drifts too well? I don't know what you call that engineer. Solution for FPS stuttering: lower the graphics quality or upgrade your hardware, usually. I do not know how to find out how much hertz your computer can handle. I still sit at 60 hertz. Usually, like most graphics cards, will tell you what they're able to actually output if you look at the actual specs, but there's no guarantee if it can go higher than that or not. Yeah, don't spam again, because if you spam again, you will get muted for the entire stream. How do you fix stick drift at home? Do you have what type of controller is it? If it's PlayStation or Nintendo or an off-brand, that one's a little bit harder. But if it's an Xbox controller, there's a simple website you can do it at. Where is the website? Okay, I might have to open it on this computer really quick. Because, like, it does also work on non. Okay, there we go. It does also somewhat work on non-Xbox controllers, but it's going to be the best option for you. Drift Guard is going to be the website you're going to want, because it will actually test your controller, and then there is a method for it to fix your controller. It pretty much updates the firmware to offset the stick drift. Am I familiar with Arduino steps? Yes, somewhat. It's been a while since I've worked with Arduino. I do not know what starter PC you should buy as a gamer, because currently PC prices are so high that a budget build is not really an option right now. Here, I'll write it right here. Drift Guard. The website is driftguard.app. But yeah, they also have a program in Steam instead of the website for it. The program in Steam is like $40, but I want to say you can do all the stuff with the website, if I remember correctly. Okay, at this point, to the person who was asking about a budget PC, I'm going to be muting you because you keep spamming the chat. You do not seem to have the control to not spam the chat. How do I remember all this stuff? A lot of ADHD. Inside here are a ton of filing cabinets, and anytime I'm thinking about something, I'm mentally running through all those filing cabinets trying to find the right one that has the info. Those filing cabinets are not organized. Quick overview how enterprise VPNs are set up. usually you have a server that is the domain controller. It handles stuff like DHCP, DNS, and then VPN connections, because especially at enterprise, you need people to be able to remote into the work server so that they can work off of stuff without having to risk security as much. And so usually in the domain controller, the VPN is set up at that level. I mean, I don't know what else, like, it's set up normally like a VPN would be. It depends on what type of VPN they're running, because there's a few different options for that. But what specifically would you want to know about a VPN at an enterprise level? How do you put RAM back in properly? So if it's this type of board, if it's like a desktop board, so if there's a clip at the top and the bottom that you can open, you want to open both of those. And then you just want to slide it into the slot equally at both ends and slowly push down until both those clips go clip. Like, you will hear an actual audible click from both of those, and they will be in position. You want to be pushing on the ends that are closest to the clip to push it in. And then if it's a board like this one, only has clips at the top. So what you're going to do is you're going to be putting the RAM in at an angle so it clips into the bottom first and then clips into the top. Pretty much you just want to slide it in at a slight angle, because the bottom will clip in, then the top. But you don't want it like at a 45. You want it kind of like that angle, like 15 degrees. If it is a laptop, it's a laptop like this one. When you put it in, so here's the RAM slot on this one. When you put it in, you're going to be sliding it in like that and then pressing it down. So you take the RAM, you slide it in so it's avoiding these clips right here, and then you push it down. At no point should it feel like you're actively forcing it into place. If the middle notch does not line up, then you have the wrong type of RAM. Because each version of RAM, like DDR4, DDR5, DDR3, DDR2, all of them have a notch at a different location. Like, notch here, and notch here. Those are 3 different types of RAM. Their notches are in different spots. Any must-do certifications? No. The thing I always recommend for certifications is go and look at 5 job postings for the type of job you're wanting to get and compare what certifications they have listed as the requirements. Then you're going to go, okay, at least 3 of these want this certification. That's the certification I should go after. Like, if 3 or more out of 5 require that certification, those are the certifications you should go after. The more jobs require that certification, that means it's a higher priority for you. If only one of them requires it, then it's probably they're trying to force you to do another job on top of the one that's actually listed. Do RAM cards have reserved memory or something like that? No. But your system can reserve some of the memory so you're not using it all up. That way it can continue to process stuff in the background. Yeah, you should always be aiming for what the market wants. And then if you have like spare money and spare time, go after the certifications you want. Like, there's some that I'm just like, yeah, I'd love to have that certification, even though I have no use for it. I want that knowledge. That should always be a priority after you have the job and the career. What VPN do you recommend? I recommend one that is run out of your home. That way, when you are out and about, you are connecting back to your house, whatever your router or setup can handle. You want to be like me? Where do you start? Don't. It's been a nightmare of a journey. The RAM came out of the computer when that okay, so it's the same RAM you're trying to put in. So what's going on is going to be here is the notch right here. It's supposed to be right here. You just need to take the RAM and flip it. You're putting the RAM in backwards, if that's the case. If it's the RAM that came out of that computer, you just have to put it the other way around. If you want to go down a similar job path to me, I ran servers out of my house for years. I built my first media server when I was in high school. I used an old, what brand was that? I used an old E-Machine computer as a server that hosted files on it because, like, I wanted my family to be able to watch TV shows that they liked. And so I had a DVR that would save them as, like, MOV files, like Windows Movie files. And so we would be able to watch those TV shows and movies that we got from me making a DVR myself. And so after I made that server, I decided to make a web server. Why are your lights flickering, Maddie? I just noticed your messages over on Twitch. Yeah, I just started building servers in my house, and then by the time I was out of high school, I had built them. I had the experience making servers. I even ran game servers on Minecraft for a few years, and then I got an internship as an IT guy for a nonprofit, and then I worked there for close to a decade, and then I quit because I was burnt out. What certifications do I have? Absolutely none. Because I did not make enough at my job to make it possible for me to get those certifications and just didn't need them. Because, like, I had the knowledge that came from those certifications. I just didn't have the piece of paper that said, you have this knowledge. I had the servers running that had the proof that I had that knowledge. Yeah, it has been a very long journey. And now I teach people tech stuff on the internet. It's really fun. I'm going to be filming a video about this thing that's on my desk right now. And once that turns on, let's make sure it's not going to show any, like, personal data when I do this. Yeah, if you run a server out of your home, I always recommend going with a desktop. Laptops are a pain in the butt as servers. I have a couple that I will use as servers on client sites for short-term, like, use. There we go. Chrome OS Flex. This is an old Pentium quad-core laptop. Only has like 4 gigabytes of RAM, but full tablet laptop. Works with Chrome OS Flex just fine. Takes a little while to boot up. Like, it's a slower machine, but honestly, for what I'm using it for, this is perfectly fine. I love having, like, I was on the Chromebook beta team. Welcome to random part of my journey. And I love having a Chromebook. Like, having a Chromebook on your couch that you can just grab and test things on. It is so useful. I'm loading it up as a guest. Oh, it rebooted. There we go. Ta-da! This is a full Chromebook. It even goes into tablet mode. Yeah, these things are so good. In Linux environments, is there an equivalent of Windows Active Directory? Yes. Ubuntu actually has an option for that. I cannot remember what it's called. Um, Let me see if I can find it. Um, I do not know why that site was so zoomed in. I cannot remember what it's called, but Ubuntu has a different solution for it. Oh, a lot of people really don't like Chromebooks. And honestly, there's some things I really can't stand about Chromebooks. Like how disposable Chromebooks are really bugs me. But at the same time, they're a very accessible device for a lot of people. Okay, I think I'm going to wrap up the stream here because my laptop is dying and I want to go sit down and relax for the rest of my evening. So, everyone who is watching, thank you guys so much for watching. Do me a favor. If you have a free minute, go to my website and follow me all of the places you can see underneath my lovely portrait right there. You can see links to my YouTube, my TikTok, my Instagram, my Twitch, my threads, my Substack, all of those things. I haven't put anything on Substack in a few months. Um, and you can also find cool links like PC Doctor Toolbox. This is a completely free tool. Oh, I already have a tab open for it. This is a completely free tool that I recommend everyone have on their computer. If you're running a Windows computer, you should have PC Toolbox installed on your computer. It is a hardware tool that will check your hardware to make sure things are not going wrong with your computer. And it can catch things before things go massively wrong. Like if your hard drive's dying, it will let you know that it is failing before it actually fails. If you're having a RAM issue, it can detect a RAM issue because it has these tests that it will run periodically to tell you what's going on with your hardware. This thing is free to use for home use. It is phenomenal. I love it. I use this same exact toolkit in my repair shop. I just have a paid version that I use in my repair shop. Also, if you want awesome stickers like the stickers that I have on a bunch of my different devices, like most of the stickers on this tablet are by Octopus Crime Design. He is my best friend and he is amazing. He makes awesome stickers that last a long time. I have put these computers through hell and back and they still have the stickers on them. You can also find my lovely wish list on here if you want to help make the stream better and you want to give me a little bit of money. Here are the things on my wish list. You do not have to buy something from my wish list. You can contribute money to things on my wish list to help me out. Like if you go, oh, I have like 20 bucks that I don't mind giving because this person did awesome stuff. You can go on there. Help me out a little bit. But thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you guys later. I will be back live on Tuesday to Maddie, do you think I would take it seriously if you accidentally misgendered me? Um, I will be back live Tuesday to talk about more tech stuff. And on Tuesday, if we get to the 10,000 likes, I will switch over to the AI is evil topic. Even though I don't think AI is evil, I think it's just misused as a tool. And a lot of greedy people are using it as a way to get rich. But thank you guys for hanging out with me. I will see you guys later. You guys are amazing. And keep staying curious. Bye, everybody. Oh, oh, I'm gonna go pass out, everyone. Thank you guys for hanging out with me. My feet are tired because I'm standing on a concrete floor. It just has very horrible carpet underneath it, or on top of it. Yeah, the carpet is underneath the concrete. Yeah, let's put it that way. Yeah.